Why do you attract narcissists? Well, if you watched my last video, you'll see that because of the childhood experiences you've had, plus your natural coping method to deal with the abuse, you have become molded to become the perfect target for narcissists to get their supply. A highly empathetic and caring individual. Now, you may have attracted them into your life simply because you didn't see the red flags, which you can learn about in my other videos. But the main reason you attracted them is because of your codependency. What is codependency? Well, a codependent is someone who is dependent on giving. It is an emotional and behavioral condition that affects an individual's ability to have a healthy, mutually satisfying relationship. People with codependency often have relationships that are one-sided and emotionally destructive. Throughout my own research and own personal experience, I've concluded that just like with narcissism, codependency is a learned behavior passed down from one generation to another. During my time when I was healing from narcissistic abuse, I was interested in learning more about my family history. And when I started asking questions, I saw the patterns. Now, my own father is a codependent. He grew up with a narcissistic mother. My grandmother ultimately ended up having 8 kids and had to raise them practically by herself because my grandfather had passed away very young. So when you have a narcissistic mother raising 8 kids by herself, a lot of them are not going to turn out okay. Of the 8 children, 2 of them were her favorite. They were the golden children, and they turned out to be narcissists. My father was really the only one that ended up becoming a codependent. Most of them ended up becoming a narcissist themselves. And even to this day, my grandmother now, she continues to be abusive to the aides that help take care of her. So you would think that they mellow out with age, but that would not be the case. And to go even a step further, I went back another generation completely, going to my dad's grandmother. And from there, he informed me that he was actually the favorite. And my great-grandmother, his grandmother, was jealous of his grandfather because he was a handsome man and she didn't want him talking to other women. Also, my father has stated that she wanted him to cook and do all the housework. So the patterns play out in my dad's life currently. He does have jealousy issues, and he is insecure about his relationship with my mother. I did find it interesting that he was his grandmother's favorite. So being around her most definitely has influenced and shaped his life today. How do you know if you're a codependent? Well, codependents may have trouble with low self-esteem, acknowledging and meeting their own needs and wants, difficulty expressing and experiencing emotions, feeling cut off from their feelings, being extremely self-critical, developing mental health issues such as anxiety or depression. I even know a very empathetic codependent that tried to commit suicide, so sometimes it can go to a very deep level. They have a exaggerated sense of responsibility for the actions of others, a tendency to confuse love and pity with the tendency to love people they can pity and rescue. This is where we become attracted to people who could be covert narcissists, because typically they will put on a victim mask and make us feel sorry for them. Another trait is they may have a tendency to become hurt when people don't recognize their efforts. A unhealthy dependence on relationships. The codependent will do anything to get hold of a relationship to avoid the feeling of abandonment. They have a extreme need for approval and recognition, a sense of guilt when asserting themselves, rigid and difficulty adjusting to change, problems with intimacy and boundaries, chronic anger, lying/dishonesty, poor communication skills, and difficulty making decisions. How does a narcissist choose me? Well, according to Dr. Babayak, there are 3 stages. The first one being the assessment stage. This is where they determine to see if you meet the requirements as prey. They are watching your body language. They are listening with intent to your responses. They are asking you many questions and paying attention to your eye contact. They are determining what they can make use of you, whether that be good contacts, a sexual relationship, financial gain, resources, etc. They will try to follow up quickly and gather your contact information, whether that be social media or your phone number. The second stage is the manipulation stage. This is where you give the person a chance. You will find yourself trusting them way too soon, breaking your own boundaries and filters that you set in place for people. They will love bomb you. They will idolize you in words and actions, making you feel special. You will fall for it, and you will be very responsive and giving at first. Once they have you, that's when they begin their emotional manipulation and abuse. And you end up wanting to just please them, someone who can never be pleased and cared for to begin with. You will be their punching bag, and if you show any signs or do anything to confront them, you will receive punishment such as silent treatments, put downs, and they will slowly deteriorate your self-worth. And the final stage, the discard. This is where they become bored of you. They get all that they can from you, and there's no longer any juice left for them to squeeze, and this is where they drop you. Now, sometimes during the second stage, you can catch on to what is going on, and you can go no contact. And they will typically try to get you back in. They will hover around you, and they will use every single trick in the book to try to get you back in their life. Now you might ask yourself, why was I targeted? Well, they choose you to be their victim because of something you have that they want. Something that is a strength of yours, whether that be money, your status in society, your looks, or if you just draw a lot of attention to yourself. They go after someone who's very empathetic and caring, and someone they can easily manipulate. They will love bomb you to get your defenses down, and once they hook you, they will revert more back to who they really are. Codependents stay because they are addicted to the relationship. They feel as if they can help them. They are attracted to each other because one gives and the other takes. A codependent typically has a narcissistic parent, so they were conditioned to be the perfect narcissistic supply. They didn't receive unconditional love, they got conditional love, and the only way they got that was to work for it. They were programmed to believe that if they gave a narcissist love and try to help change them, they will also in return receive love and affection. But as we know, it is very rare for a narcissist to change. Maybe when they're younger, but as they get older, the personality starts to cement like clay, and they will be less likely to change. Now, what you have to do is change your false belief systems, and a good therapist can help. In my opinion, it is not the ideal way to go, and I'll explain what I mean. I personally myself went to a therapist for 6 sessions, and I did not find much value except for some great insights and a different perspective from a third party that isn't emotionally connected to my situation. However, I am a person that has no problem sitting down alone and asking myself these tough questions. If you have trouble sitting down alone with your thoughts, then a therapist can help, and I would recommend them. Now, a lot of them are not properly educated when it comes to NPD because, well, sometimes they themselves have not experienced it, and they may also try to rationalize the behavior of the narcissist, which only makes you, the victim, feel even more worse. So, in addition to seeing a therapist, I would also highly recommend watching videos on YouTube from other survivors who have been through it and the steps they took. That, I think, besides learning about it through a therapist, is one of the best ways to learn. And to me, though, like I said, the best way to figure it out and heal is to sit down alone and analyze your own behavior and the patterns in your own life and how you can do things differently. The first 3 to 4 sessions with my therapist was mainly me asking questions I had about NPD that I had thought about and written down in my phone. So if that's something you want to do, that's perfect. Right? Write them down in the Notes app, and then, maybe questions that you can't get an answer from the internet, that maybe a therapist can give you an opinion on. That's perfectly fine. Now, of course, hopefully you can find one that is properly trained and can help guide you, one that will lead you to asking yourself the right questions and finding the answer. So I have written here some questions that you can ask yourself, and these are just a very simple place to start. It's not all the questions you will ask yourself. You will come up with much more. And for every question, I want you to ask why at the end of it. So, do I keep quiet to avoid arguments? Why? Are the opinions of others more important than my own? Why? Do I feel rejected when significant others spend time with friends? Why? Do I doubt my ability to be who I want to be? Am I uncomfortable expressing my true feelings to others? Do I feel like a bad person when I make a mistake? Do I have trouble saying no when asked for help? What am I doing unconsciously to bring toxic people in my life? This is something that is so crucial, and this is where learning about yourself comes in handy, right? So if you watched my last video, you'll see how I talked about attachment theory. So continuously learning about yourself will help you answer this question. How do most of these relationships start? What is the pattern? Do I fall for superficial charm and false flattery? What events in the past altered who I am and the way I perceive the world? What false belief systems do I need to change? What is the behavioral patterns of the narcissist in my life? This is something that I do. I keep track of the patterns that they do. So if they, for example, my sister, she will provoke me, and then when I give a reaction, because maybe, I don't know, she does something that triggers me. Maybe she puts her hand on my wrist, and I don't like people, touching me like that. And then I give an emotional reaction where I tell her the truth. Then she will cry and play the victim. So she will provoke and then cry and play the victim. So that's the pattern that always happens, right? With my mother, she will play nice to get what she wants, and then if I say no, she will have a temper tantrum like a 5-year-old, right? So keep note of these. And finally, what do I need to look out for in the future, and what will I do differently? Now, there are 3 main steps to heal. The first one being withdrawing from current relationships with narcissists, thus stopping the addiction cycle associated with being with them and ending the trauma bond. Secondly, looking within at your own patterns and healing your own inner child and childhood wounds. And finally, you want to rewire yourself from the dysfunctional programming instilled into you with new, healthier ones. It sounds very easy, but it is not. It is very difficult. But always keep in mind that it is only 3 main things that you have to do. For setting boundaries and rules for healing, I'm going to cover 12 things that are going to be your Bible, right? Now, keep in mind, this is if you have to go low contact or if you have to deal with them. If you're going no contact, then of course these things you should still learn, but it won't apply as much, right? And if you are going no contact, you have to go all the way, no holding back. You have to block them from everything because they will try to reach out to you and get you back in their life. So if you didn't block them on Instagram, they'll reach out through there, right? And let you never let them know that you will never be seeing them again if you are going to decide to go no contact. You may fantasize about telling them off, but they're going to find a way to drag you back in somehow. It's best to avoid the drama and cut them out quietly. Okay, so now for the first rule, make no part of your vocabulary. No one is entitled for an explanation from you. If you can't do something, just simply say you can't, right? There was this test I did for myself where I went a week where I would say no to everybody if somebody asked me for something. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't last 2 days. Actually, the first day I had a very bad reaction from a narcissist, my narcissistic cousin. We were at a family gathering, and he wanted me to get a bottle of water from him. And I said, no, I can't do that. And he had a huge fit, made a big deal out of it. Very childish. And just, completely going. And I stood my ground. It was hard because there were, I had another narcissist cousin next to him that was trying to guilt trip me by saying all of the favors my cousin who asked me for water has done for me while growing up. So you will be pressured to give in, but always hold your ground, right? Anybody that reacts that way, if you can't do a little thing that they can do for themselves, he could have easily gotten up and got himself a bottle of water, right? That's just being lazy. And that's not a favor if you can do it yourself. A favor is something that you're not physically capable of doing and you actually need help from somebody. So make note of it when things like that happens, but always stick your ground. Never give in. And I felt so good when I didn't cave and got him the bottle of water. Okay? Now the second rule, do not drink the Kool-Aid. Don't respond to flattery, right? Sometimes, yeah, it is genuine, but you shouldn't get all, you shouldn't blush if someone compliments you. Learn to develop real confidence from within. And if someone is charming you from the beginning, that is a red flag in my own experience, right? Someone who's very charismatic and charming. I like people that are shy and awkward on the first meeting because I know it's authentic, right? And I'm just awkward myself. So rule number 3, trust but verify. Trust should be earned little by little over time. Test others with favors that you do for them. Okay, if they don't reciprocate, fuck them. I had a bad habit of always doing favors to people, and I'm somebody that I never ask people for favors because if I can do it myself, I will. I'm not that type of person. And every now and then, after a couple of favors, maybe 2 or 3, I'll test them with something very simple and see if they can do it. If they come up with a bunch of excuses, yeah, maybe I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but then I'll try again later. And I'll see how much willing they are to accommodate. If they're like, oh, I can't do it, sorry. But if they're like, oh, I can't do it, I can do it tomorrow, does that work for you? Then, of course, you can trust that they are somebody that reciprocates favors, right? So, right, you want to see people for who they are. And You want to see if their words match their actions. If not, you should probably not trust them. And another thing to keep in mind is if they're also anybody that gossips with you about other people will gossip about you behind your back. I think that's like that's a saying. I don't know where it's from, but it's so true, right? If people blab about other people with you, don't trust them. Don't even engage. Don't, just don't. Number 4, respond. Do not react. Right? Some narcissists sometimes don't know the appropriate facial expression or body language in some social situations. They have to learn and mimic it. But however, they are adept at reading your own body language. So if they try to provoke you, just go gray rock. Have a blank face and be emotionless with very blunt and short responses. Never react. Always give a response. This will drive them crazy because they are dying for that emotional reaction out of you. With the whole water bottle incident, when my cousin was giving me this temper tantrum and being very emotional and making a big scene out of nothing, I didn't get upset. I didn't react. I just stood my ground. I said, I can't do that. I am trying to learn how to set, boundaries. And if you can't respect that, that's on you. That's not on me. And it drove him crazy because I didn't react emotionally. Number 5, know yourself and others. Educate yourself. Practice self-awareness of yourself and of others. Decide what you'll tolerate and what you won't. You want to learn how to read body language yourself and facial expressions. You can, of course, watch YouTube videos or read online or get a couple books. You want to see which people are motivated by their own self-agenda and avoid them like the plague. Number 6, dress like you listen to Sinatra. Act like you listen to Pac. Be direct. Don't be afraid to be confrontational. Stand your ground, right? If something makes you uncomfortable or you don't feel something is right, you can just say it. As long as you do it with grace, right? Decide what your core values are. Find out what you're comfortable with and what you aren't. Make your intentions known and clearly state what they are. And this is something that's a problem for codependents, is that communication issue. Be very direct. Number 7, be wary of hidden enemies. Choose the people you associate with more carefully. Not everybody has your best interest in mind. Watch who celebrate when you do good, and pay attention to those who shell up and hide. You also want to avoid where narcissists congregate. Avoid online dating. You can't read someone's body language over text. And people that lack the ability to display genuine emotions, they prefer communicating on the internet and through text. I know a lot of the narcissists in my life, they are huge for online dating. It's almost crazy. It's like all of them are. So you don't want to enter any relationship unless you yourself are ready for one, right? So also, just a little side note, keep that in mind. Number 8, you have needs. Satisfy them. You're not here to save anybody. You're not here if you have a Christ complex or whatever. It's not your job. It isn't your job to help anybody. It's okay to be a little selfish and focus on yourself. Your own mental health and well-being should be your main priority. You can't change other people, right? It's like that Gandhi quote, you must be the change you want to see in the world. Change yourself first before you try to help other people. Number 9, love yourself. Make self-care a priority. Learn to love yourself. Appreciate you for who you truly are. Go to the gym. Treat yourself to a nice meal. Get a haircut. Get your nails done. Heck, even spend a night in watching Netflix if you have to. Right? Just make sure you take care of yourself. Number 10, do the work. Time does not necessarily heal the wounds of narcissistic abuse. Recovery will only take part if you put in the work. You must be committed to healing yourself every single day. Number 11, escape the mental prison. After a while, you want to stay away from information regarding narcissistic abuse. Sounds contradictory, considering that I'm making these videos, but once you have gathered enough information about them in the beginning, continually staying focused on the abuse will keep you trapped in reliving the harm that they have done to you. Focus more on healing than on how terrible they are. Find a support group or some friends that you trust and can talk to. Focusing on what they've done to you and how horrible they are keeps giving them power over you, and you want to escape from that. And you can escape by rule number 12, which is forgive but don't forget. Now that you know they're toxic and you are somewhat educated on them, there is no excuse for you to continue being abused by them. As you find more power with your own voice and become more confident and self-assured of who you are as a person, the healing can begin and continue. You have to look for the silver lining, the lesson that you learned, and find it in you to forgive them for what they did to you, no matter how bad, because it is something you needed to go through so you could get to this point here today. Alright guys, thank you for watching my video. I truly hope that this video helped you. If it did, leave a comment. I would really appreciate it. Thank you.